Sarah Whitehorse stood at the window of the Chey trading post on the Navajo Reservation in Arizona, watching dust devils dance across the red earth. She'd grown up here, in this small community of 847 people, where everyone knew everyone, and tradition ran deeper than the canyon arroyos. 3 months ago, she'd converted to Islam. Today, she was the only Muslim on the entire reservation. The bell above the door chimed. Sarah turned to greet the customer, her cousin Rita, who she'd known since birth. They'd learned to weave together as children, attended the same Navajo language classes, danced at the same ceremonies. Rita looked at Sarah, at her hijab, a beautiful turquoise blue that reminded Sarah of the desert sky, then turned and walked out without a word. It was the third time this week a family member had refused to acknowledge her. Have you ever felt like a stranger in the place you've always called home? Sarah Whitehorse was 38 years old, Diné, Navajo, born and raised on the reservation. Her family had lived on this land for generations. She spoke Navajo fluently. She knew every trail, every spring, every story. She'd been raised in the traditional Navajo way, learning from her grandmother about changing woman, the holy people, the importance of walking in beauty, hujo. She'd participated in ceremonies, learned traditional songs, honored her clan ties. But 2 years ago, she'd started questioning. Not questioning her Navajo identity, that was bone deep, unchangeable, but questioning what she believed about the universe, about God, about how to live. A friend in Flagstaff had given her a Quran. Sarah had read it out of curiosity. She'd found something unexpected, concepts that resonated with her Navajo worldview. The emphasis on community, the respect for elders, the importance of charity, the direct relationship with the Creator. She'd started attending a mosque in Flagstaff, making the 90-minute drive every Friday. She'd asked questions, studied, prayed. 6 months ago, she'd taken Shahada, the declaration of faith that made her Muslim. 3 months ago, she'd started wearing hijab, and that's when everything changed. Her mother stopped calling. Her uncle told her she'd abandoned her people. Her aunt said she was choosing Arab ways over Navajo ways. Her cousin, the one who just walked out, told her she was a traitor to indigenous culture. The isolation was crushing. Sarah had always been surrounded by family, by community. Now she felt like she was living on an island, visible to everyone, but connected to no one. But what Sarah didn't know yet was that she wasn't as alone as she thought. Help was coming from an unexpected source, the tribal elders. Elder Thomas Begay was 81 years old, a respected medicine man and member of the tribal council. He'd heard about Sarah Whitehorse, everyone on the reservation had, the woman who'd become Muslim. He'd also heard about how her family was treating her, the shunning, the gossip, the isolation. It bothered him, not because she'd converted. Thomas had seen enough life to know that spiritual journeys took many forms. What bothered him was the un-Navajo way people were responding. Walking in beauty meant walking in harmony. Excluding someone from the community wasn't harmony. It was imbalance. Thomas called a meeting of the Council of Elders, 7 men and women who guided the community on matters of tradition and values. "We need to discuss Sarah Whitehorse," Thomas began.
Elder Mary Yazi spoke first. "She's turned her back on our ways, wearing that Muslim cloth on her head, speaking Arabic prayers. She's not Diné anymore." "Is she still Diné blood?" Thomas asked. "Yes, but does she still speak Diné Bizad, Navajo language?" "Yes, but does she still live on Diné land, work in our community, care for our people?" Mary hesitated. "She works at the trading post, helps visitors understand our culture. She's always been good at that." "Then she's still Diné," Thomas said firmly. "Religion is what you believe. Identity is who you are. Sarah Whitehorse is Diné who believes in Islam. Those aren't contradictions. Elder Ben Nez spoke up. But Islam is a foreign religion. It's not our way. Christianity isn't our way either, Thomas replied. Yet half this reservation goes to Christian churches every Sunday. Do we tell them they're not Diné anymore? The elders fell silent. Thomas had a point. Christianity had come to the reservation through missions and boarding schools, often forcefully. Yet Navajo Christians weren't excluded from the community. Why do we accept Navajo Christians but not a Navajo Muslim? Thomas continued. Because Christianity is familiar and Islam is not? That's fear, not tradition. Elder Sarah Sosi, no relation to Sarah Whitehorse, added quietly, "My grandfather told me about when the first Navajos converted to Christianity. The traditional people said they were betraying the holy people. They were excluded from ceremonies, called traitors. But eventually the community learned that you could be Christian and Diné. Maybe we need to learn that again." Thomas nodded. "I propose we reach out to Sarah Whitehorse, learn about her beliefs, see if there's a way for her to be Muslim and Diné without choosing between them." "And if she's truly abandoned our ways," Mary challenged, "then we'll know for certain. But right now we're judging without knowing. That's not the Diné way either." The council voted 5-2 in favor of reaching out to Sarah. Thomas Begay would be the one to make first contact. Sarah was restocking shelves at the trading post when Thomas Begay walked in. She knew him, of course. Everyone knew Elder Begay. But she was surprised to see him. "Yate Shuche." "Hello, my granddaughter," Thomas said in Navajo. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. It was the first time in 3 months anyone had greeted her in Navajo. Everyone else acted like she'd forgotten the language when she learned Arabic prayers. "Yate Shucheye." "Hello, my grandfather," Sarah replied, her voice shaking. "I'd like to talk with you," Thomas said, "if you have time." They sat in the small office behind the trading post. Thomas looked at Sarah's hijab, turquoise blue with silver embroidery that reminded him of traditional Navajo patterns. "That's beautiful," he said, gesturing to the hijab. "Did you make it?" "I did," Sarah said, surprised. "I used traditional Navajo weaving patterns in the embroidery. I wanted to honor both parts of who I am." "Tell me about Islam," Thomas said simply. "Not what others say about it, what it means to you." For the first time in months, someone was actually asking, not judging, not condemning, asking. Sarah took a breath. "Islam means submission to the Creator, to God. In Navajo, we also believe in submission to natural law, to the holy people, to walking in beauty. For me, Islam gave structure to something I already believed, that there's one Creator, that we should live in harmony, that we should care for each other." "Do you still believe in Navajo ways?" Thomas asked. "I still believe in Hajo, walking in beauty. I still believe in the importance of clan, of family, of land. I still speak Navajo. I still understand our stories. Islam didn't erase that, it added to it." "What about ceremonies, the holy people?"
Sarah chose her words carefully. "I honor my ancestors and their traditions. I don't participate in religious ceremonies that conflict with Islamic monotheism, but I participate in cultural ceremonies, the Kinalda, coming-of-age ceremony, community gatherings, traditional meals. My Islam doesn't require me to reject Navajo culture. It just changed what I believe about God." Thomas was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "When I was young, the Bureau of Indian Affairs took me to a boarding school. They cut my hair, forbade me from speaking Navajo, told me our beliefs were savage. They tried to make me choose between being Navajo and being acceptable to white America. I refused to choose. I remained Navajo in my heart even when I was forced to act otherwise. When I came home, I reclaimed our language, our traditions, our ways. He looked at Sarah intently. "You remind me of that younger version of myself. Someone forced to choose between identities when you shouldn't have to choose at all." Sarah felt tears forming. "I don't want to choose. I'm Diné. That's who I am. Islam is what I believe. Why can't I be both?" "You can be," Thomas said firmly, "and I'm going to help you show the community that." 2 weeks later, Thomas Begay invited Sarah to speak at a community teaching circle, a traditional gathering where knowledge is shared. Sarah was terrified. "They'll hate me, they'll reject, they'll listen," Thomas interrupted, "because I'm asking them to, and they respect elders." The teaching circle was held in the community center. 47 people attended, a significant showing for the small community. Sarah's mother was there, sitting in the back, her uncle, her cousins, people who'd been avoiding her for months. Thomas opened with a prayer in Navajo, then introduced Sarah. Sarah Whitehorse is Diné, born here, raised here, one of us. She's also Muslim. Today, she's going to teach us about Islam, not to convert anyone, but so we understand what she believes. Understanding doesn't require agreement, but it does require listening. Sarah stood, her hijab today a rust-red color that matched the canyon walls outside. "Ya te, shikei, do shidine," she began in Navajo. She told them about Islam, about Tawhid, monotheism, the belief in one creator. She compared it to Navajo beliefs about the holy people and the natural order. She explained the 5 pillars: declaration of faith, prayer, charity, fasting, pilgrimage. She drew parallels to Navajo values: respect for the sacred, generosity to community, sacrifice and discipline, journeys to sacred places. Islam doesn't erase my Navajo identity. It changed what I believe about the Creator, but it didn't change who I am. I'm still Diné. I still speak our language. I still honor our land. I still value family, community, walking in beauty. She touched her hijab. This cloth is my way of showing devotion to God. Just like some of you wear crosses to show Christian faith, or turquoise to honor traditional ways. It's an outward symbol of an inward belief. I'm not asking you to become Muslim. I'm asking you to let me be Muslim and Diné, both, not either or. The room was silent. Then Sarah's mother stood. "I didn't understand," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I thought you were rejecting us, rejecting me, your grandmother, our ancestors." "Never," Sarah said. "I could never reject who I am. I'm honoring who I am, in a new way." Her mother walked to the front and hugged her daughter for the first time in 3 months. Half the room started crying. You won't believe what happened in the community after that night. Word spread beyond the reservation. A Navajo woman who was Muslim. It was unusual, unexpected. Journalists wanted to interview her. Anthropologists wanted to study her. Muslim organizations wanted to feature her story. But Sarah stayed focused on her community. She started a small project, teaching Islam through Navajo cultural lens. She created a presentation, Islam and Diné Values, Finding Common Ground. She showed how Islamic concepts aligned with Navajo philosophy. Tawhid, monotheism, equaled recognition of one creator, similar to Navajo understanding of natural law and sacred order. Salah, prayer, equaled similar to Navajo practice of greeting the dawn, speaking to the holy people. Zakat, charity, equaled aligned with Navajo emphasis on generosity and caring for community. Som, fasting, equaled similar to Navajo fasting traditions for spiritual discipline. Hajj, pilgrimage, equaled comparable to Navajo journeys to sacred mountains. She wasn't saying Islam and Navajo spirituality were the same. They weren't. But she showed they weren't contradictory either. Universities invited her to speak. Indigenous Muslims navigating multiple identities became a popular lecture. The Islamic Center in Flagstaff invited her to teach about indigenous perspectives. Many Muslims had never considered that Islam could be practiced within indigenous cultural frameworks. Islam is for all people, Sarah told one audience. That includes indigenous people. We don't have to become Arab or Pakistani or Turkish to be Muslim. We can be Diné Muslim, Lakota Muslim, Cherokee Muslim. Islam is universal. It adapts to every culture. But her most important work was local. She started a small gathering, Cultural Bridge Circle, where reservation residents could ask questions about Islam without judgment. 15 people came to the first meeting, 23 to the second. By the sixth meeting, 47 regular attendees. Most didn't convert, but they understood. And understanding created space for Sarah to exist as both Muslim and Diné. Sarah's niece Elena was turning 13. Time for her Canalda, the traditional Navajo coming-of-age ceremony for girls becoming women. Sarah's brother had been one of the most vocal critics of her conversion. He'd told her she wasn't welcome at family ceremonies anymore, that she'd chosen Islam over family. But now, a year later, he called her. Elena asked if you'd participate in her Canalda, he said, his voice tight. She said you're her favorite aunt, that you taught her strength by standing up for what you believe. Sarah felt tears forming. I'd be honored. There's one condition, her brother continued. You have to explain to her what you believe. I don't want her confused about who she is. She's Diné, Sarah said firmly. Nothing I believe changes that, but I'll talk to her. The Canalda lasted 4 days. Traditional songs, prayers, running, grinding corn, the culmination feast. Sarah participated in all the cultural elements. She didn't participate in prayers to the holy people that conflicted with Islamic monotheism, but she was present, supportive, honored. On the final day, Elena asked Sarah to talk with her. Aunt Sarah, can you be Navajo and Muslim? I am Navajo and Muslim, Sarah replied. But people say you have to choose. People are wrong. Your identity, your clan, your language, your culture, that's who you are. Your religion is what you believe about God. They're different things. Can I be both too? Sarah smiled. You can be whatever you choose to be. You can be Navajo and Christian like your father, Navajo and traditional like your grandmother, Navajo and anything. What matters is that you honor who you are while choosing what you believe. Elena thought about that. I think I'll be Navajo and figure out the God part later. That's perfect, Sarah said.
3 years after her conversion, Sarah received an unusual request. A delegation from the Oglala Lakota Reservation in South Dakota wanted to visit. They'd heard about the Navajo Muslim woman and had questions. A Lakota man named Joseph had recently converted to Islam. His community was struggling with how to respond. They'd heard that Sarah's community had found a way. Elder Thomas Begay invited them to the reservation. Sarah hosted them at the trading post. Joseph was 29, a veteran who'd found Islam during his service overseas. I feel like I have to choose, he told Sarah, be Lakota or be Muslim. You don't, Sarah said firmly. I'm proof you don't. She showed him her life, speaking Navajo at the trading post, praying in Arabic at home, wearing hijab with traditional Navajo patterns, teaching about Islam through indigenous lenses, participating in cultural ceremonies while maintaining Islamic beliefs.
Islam is my religion. Navajo is my identity. They complement each other. The Lakota delegation spent 3 days on the reservation, learning from Sarah and Elder Thomas about how to navigate multiple identities without compromising either. We make space, Thomas explained, space for people to be fully indigenous and fully whatever religion they choose. Because forcing people to choose divides communities. Accepting multiple identities strengthens them. When the delegation left, Joseph had tears in his eyes. "You gave me permission to be both. Thank you." Sarah wrote a book, Red Earth, 5 Pillars, Being Indigenous and Muslim in America. It wasn't academic, it was personal. Her journey, her struggles, her community's evolution. The book found an unexpected audience, indigenous Muslims across North America. Turned out there were more than anyone realized. Navajo, Lakota, Cherokee, Ojibwe, Coast Salish, all navigating the intersection of indigenous identity and Islamic faith. Sarah started an organization, Native Muslim Alliance, connecting indigenous Muslims across tribes and supporting those facing isolation in their communities. Within 2 years, 247 indigenous Muslims had connected through the network. They shared resources, supported each other, and taught their communities that being indigenous and Muslim wasn't a contradiction. But Sarah's proudest moment came at a local community gathering. Her mother introduced her to a visitor. "This is my daughter, Sarah. She's Diné, and she's Muslim. She's taught us that our community is strong enough to include many paths to the Creator." Sarah's mother had come full circle, from rejection to acceptance to pride. Sarah Whitehorse's journey created ripples far beyond the Navajo Reservation. Indigenous Muslim movement. Native Muslim Alliance grew to 500+ members across 50+ tribes. Cultural synthesis framework used by multiple faith communities. Being indigenous identity and religion template spread. Community transformation. Navajo Reservation became model for religious pluralism within indigenous communities. Understanding doesn't require agreement, principle adopted widely. Elder Thomas Begay's approach, taught in conflict resolution contexts. Interfaith impact. Islamic centers began teaching about cultural adaptation. Indigenous communities began conversations about religious diversity. Islam is universal message gained traction.
But the impact Sarah valued most was local. 5 years after her conversion, 3 other people on the reservation had explored Islam. 1 converted, 2 didn't. All were accepted by the community. Sarah changed us, Elder Thomas reflected. She showed us that our tradition of inclusion, of walking in beauty with all our relatives, means including people on different spiritual paths. That's actually more traditional than excluding them. Sarah still lived on the reservation, still worked at the trading post, still wore hijab with Navajo patterns, still spoke Navajo and prayed in Arabic. She was living proof that identity and belief aren't zero-sum, that you can honor your ancestors while choosing your own path, that small communities can embrace complexity without losing cohesion. "I'm not unique," Sarah told an interviewer. "There are indigenous Muslims across this land, indigenous Christians, indigenous Buddhists, indigenous atheists. We're all navigating multiple identities. What made my story different is that my community learned to accept it, not despite the elders, because of the elders. They reminded us that tradition includes making space for new expressions of old values. I'm Diné. I'm Muslim. I'm Sarah Whitehorse. All of it. No compromises. Are you indigenous and Muslim?
Are you navigating multiple cultural and religious identities? Do you feel pressured to choose between them? Sarah's lesson: you don't have to choose. Your identity is bone deep. Your faith is your choice. They can coexist. Find elders who understand. Build bridges between communities. Show that tradition includes evolution. You can be fully indigenous and fully Muslim. Both, not either or.